episode 144.
Five.
145.
Nah,
he was good though.
145. I mean, like it's 2 in a week. Like we doing double recording, so it like feels like.
Numbers are my thing. I got a PhD, but it's a public high school degree, so it's not really. But episode 145, we are blessed.
Donovan Long.
We're blessed to have you here with Donovan Long. But
must have just got off work.
Hey Daryl, have you eaten yet?
Yeah, blessed to be with a guest for sure.
Man, this episode is, crazy. I think timing. I think we talked about divine timing before, and I was looking at like a Facebook memory, and we were a week out from doing our Prosecco masterclass with Summer for Juice for Justice, and we just so happened to the co-founder happened to be another co-founder happened to be here for an event with Summer at Cafe Mamo this week, and just like things just kind of really like came into place. I know this was like a last minute thing, but it was like, yo, like, wow, like timing is just divine. So we are here with co-founder of Juice for Justice, owner of Cittavino, which is an online retail wine space focusing on Southern Italian wines, based out of California, also of in Italy, wine aficionado, expert, ambassador. But yeah, we're happy to have Emilia Aiello here for episode 145. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so pumped to finally meet you guys.
I know.
Right?
Yes.
After just Instagram following and virtual interactions, this is like, it's super, I'm honored. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I think I've mentioned it a couple of times, like obviously going out to Napa and all the connections I think like we all made through COVID and online, like changing those or turning those social connections from online into real life connections. And just to see the energy like kind of stay the same from social to real life. Obviously there's hiccups like sometimes like along the way with that, but for like the most part, like as far as wine goes, as I told you guys before, like on an episode, like the energy like in the industry is just really like well respected when you finally get the chance to meet in real life. So it's just happy, or just a good feeling to like meet another wine folk in real life. So welcome to the pod. We kind of kick things off with what are we drinking, so I figured you'd guide us and do your own master class on some Italian wines here today. So what do we got first?
Okay, you popped first. We have Tiberio. I don't even want to say up and coming anymore, just super established rockin' female producer from the Abruzzo. Worked super hard to get her name out there, and the wines have really taken place as some world-class wines from that region. The Abruzzo is central Italy, kind of on the Adriatic side, mostly well known for its Montepulciano grape, but also kind of known for bulk crappy wine made with Montepulciano, and there are kind of extremities. It's either like kind of shitty cheap wine all the way to super high-end, almost inaccessible wines like Emilia Pepe. I don't know if you're familiar with that name, but Colti producers and Valentini. And Christina Tiberio has come in kind of in the middle here, at least with price point with a lot of her wines. And
I feel like this is the producer I see like the most, like around, like if I'm at some of like the pristine wine shops that we have like here in the city. So like I'm familiar with the label, and I know I've poured it before at events too. So
I'm happy to hear that, because it means that we're, at least for Abruzzo, people are starting to kind of honor more quality driven wines. Organic production, minimal, kind of what we would put in minimal intervention. Like there's certainly not manipulations or added acid or tannin. And I'm all about the wine. So she has kind of these entry levels and then some high end ones. But this is her Cerasuolo. It's made with the Montepulciano grape. And the style of Cerasuolo is this dark rosé, almost light red. And there's different ranges and colors, but this is the classic kind of color for this wine and region. This one doesn't so much have as much tannin. Because, it gets the color from contact with the skins. Montepulciano is a tannic variety. So it's kind of smooth still for how dark it is.
No, it's and based on my like very minimal Italian wine knowledge, this just sounded like I was like, all right, you know, I think this one will be a good early morning wine if we're gonna drink wine in the morning. I will say too, Montepulciano taking WSET level 2, I vaguely remember missing a question about Montepulciano. Like I called it this like light bodied red or something, or like, and it ended up, the answer was obviously like tannic, like a little bit more bodied red.
Hey, but you're not wrong. Like, look at this.
Yeah, I know. Like, this is amazing.
That sounds like a crappy question that they asked you.
I was like, I think it's this, but it might be this. And then after the test, I went back. I was like, yeah, definitely got that one wrong.
It's got a range.
Yeah. I guess while we're here, I mean, we are in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Before we like talk about just you a little bit more, I guess, how's your time been in the city?
It's been rad. And I have my friends that I'm staying with just pitching Grand Rapids to me the other day. And I'm like, you don't have to convince me. It's been so fun. Obviously, we're here in the summertime, so
beautiful
extra
time.
awesome. Went to the lake yesterday. I feel like I'm getting a true summer vacation.
Good.
Before I head back to work. No, it's been great. And then meeting and like seeing friends, but then meeting you guys, top of the list for the year for sure.
Good to hear.
That's good. You know where once you start holding up your palm and saying, "Hey, I was here," that's how you know you've really gotten a Michigan experience.
Oh, because of like the mitten hand thing.
You've been here too long for sure.
I'm gonna do that now. Yeah.
That and you start calling soda pop or pop soda.
Yeah.
For sure.
Once you start calling it pop, you're here. You're adopted.
Fago. We got a lot of little Michigan things. Some Michigan cherries.
Rad.
Yeah, you're heading up north this weekend too. Getting a real Michigan experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, weather's been treating you pretty nice too.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah.
Though those thunderstorms last night were intense.
Crazy.
Yeah.
We were talking about this morning. I was like, I ain't hear shit. I was
Really?
Knocked out, huh?
It's not.
No.
I woke
They
up
were
this
loud.
morning. I was like, oh damn, it rained.
It's crazy.
Got branches down in the back.
How's the food been treating you here?
It's also been great. I mean, obviously, Cafe Mamo is the best.
Shout
And I
out to
got
Cafe Mamo.
Yeah, I got to host a evening there, and even just again my brief experience in town, like around town, people know that spot as being the best.
Yeah.
And my friends, I frequent there all the time too now.
Nice.
So that's been good. I haven't checked out too many other restaurants, but I've gone to the farmers market now twice,
Nice.
Yes.
and that's been
Good spot to be.
special.
Yeah, I love that.
We obviously you talked about Cafe Mamo. Shout out to Summer and Mike. That was, I mean, again, we talk about Juice for Justice, the masterclass that we did with Prosecco. I think I ended up hopping on and staying on all of them. Obviously, you did one on Mount Etna and the wines there. We did the Chianti class and the Beaujolais class.
Yeah.
I guess talk to us a little bit how you and Summer kind of decided to like say, hey, like let's do this in the midst of the world collapsing.
I mean, that midst the world collapsing was definitely part of the inspiration. And then I also saw Summer and Mike doing fundraisers in kind of anticipation of Cafe Mamo, but they were doing pop-ups, and I was really inspired by that. And I reached out to her and was like, is there any way we can capitalize on just the wine, our experience in the wine industry, and do some raising of funds that way? And I don't know, also to get the creative juices flowing. I mean, we so much time on our hands
Yeah,
at that
100%.
time, and wanting to, I don't know, especially being creative people, ideas start swirling, and it was the time was right to just try something different. And then also, again, being inspired by all the people around me, and then also coming through at that time during the pandemic, which was all very much related to pandemic, not exposing, but getting us all to rally around social justice issues.
Yeah.
And then the wine industry really taking on that discourse about discrimination or disparity in the wine industry. And Summer and I have connected on this before, even just working as sommeliers in a restaurant. And I don't know, sometimes you're selling wine to somebody that has a lot of money, and you're like, what is my life? Like, does this meaningful? Does this have purpose? Am I just thinking about dollars and like how to make a tip or, upsell? And is there a way to give what we do in the wine industry more meaning?
Yeah. I don't know if it's something, or like, I guess if you could share, like, you just random question, like, on that, like, I mean, if somebody buys like the bottle of whatever that, you're like, you guys have one of that bottle or two in stock, like, does that like increase the pool for like you? Is that like increase for the restaurant itself, or everybody working on the floor that day, or all the Somms, or
Yeah.
how's that, or like, what's the restaurant industry like as a Somm? Like,
Sure. I mean, I worked in pooled houses, which I totally believed in, where, the money's thrown in the pot and then everybody divides it up at the end. And I think that is helpful. I mean, I know there's a lot of conversation around tipping in general now and that background. And I think, some restaurants are trying to pull out of that system. I don't know with what success. The restaurant industry is going through some real intense, not just changes, but it's hard. It was always hard to have a restaurant, and now with inflation and food costing much more money, and now it's again bringing up issues with employee and payment and minimum wage. It's definitely, I don't know what the solutions are for that, but let's see. For New York, at least, there's definitely a culture, and probably wine industry altogether, but snooty culture and knowing as much as you can, and maybe one-upping somebody with knowledge, but also like sales and numbers. And I never was super into that, and never felt like good playing into it. I don't know. And I think that was kind of my awakening with the restaurant industry, and having to take a step back and being like, this doesn't feel like me. But New York was a super cool place to grow up in the wine industry.
Yeah.
There's so much exposure and access to things, and we had a system in the restaurant where anytime you opened a bottle, you got to take a splash of it, also to check it wasn't flawed,
right, yeah.
Fair enough.
corked or what else. And so tasted a bunch of stuff. Like, there was a lot. And yeah, I'm so grateful to have had that experience, however toxic it might have been. And so, some ways, it's one of those double-edged swords.
Got it. So obviously, been in New York, hustle and bustle in the wine industry, working at some of the top restaurants in the city. But from what I've heard, the goal was potentially to be a dancer, or you were a dancer, and then wine just kind of like
consumed me as it does. I moved out to New York to be a dancer. Real crazy. Thought I was going to be ballet.
Ballet dancer. That was my next question.
Wow. Yeah. What was I thinking? I wish I had understood a little more too about the different ways you could try to succeed as in dance with your passions. I think coming from the ballet background, I was just all in, thinking it was all I could do, and how much, and with ballet, how much you have to give yourself to it. And so to come in and try to support myself working in the restaurant 4 days a week and try to dance and then pay, support myself is not a very realistic trajectory for ballet. Usually you have a sponsor, you're in a school where your day is just totally structured for you. And so I think at some point I realized that. And also I'm multifaceted. I like doing a lot of things. I like learning. And I think ultimately best decision to stop dancing so fully and immersively was because it wasn't allowing me to explore other things in my life.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't know what direction we were going with dancing, because I was like, oh, step up 4. Like, that could be reality. Like, that could have been you for sure. But ballet,
Could have been me.
I don't know.
Save the Last Dance too.
Makes sense. New York, right? Music in a bottle. We got to bring it in. So, that makes sense. That's awesome, though. How did you get into ballet? Just out of curiosity.
Just whole life as a kid, really loved it, and started pretty young, and nobody pressured me. It was me really making serious choices young, which looking back to You're like, what? I was like 4 telling my mom I needed to be in a serious dance class. I had her take me out of like the little kid one because it wasn't serious enough. And I was like, we need the real thing.
Love it.
Yeah. So,
These girls ain't shit. Put me in the.
yeah, totally. It's a little too much playtime in this class. Yeah.
100%. And then jumping over to coming back to wine, putting together your own company. Can you talk about a little bit about that from the grassroots, and then, yeah, I would love for you to dive deep.
Oh my God, sure. I think having that dance background and how intense something like ballet is certainly helps set the stage for some of this in terms of dedication and understanding to like consistent work does bring results without really maybe fully acknowledging that consciously. But so I have a pretty intense work ethic. I like to work. And that certainly not just ballet comes from background, and I think immigrant background, and then working in the restaurant industry was good for me too in terms of I had no problem with the work demand up to a point.
Yeah.
And so with Cittavino, it birthed out of the pandemic too. We were doing some creative stuff, and Summer and I started Juice for Justice, and I wanted to keep seeing what I could build upon. I had ideas that I would try out in the restaurant when I was working, and they'd be, sometimes it worked, sometimes it wouldn't, but having that experimental space and then having already tried things and seeing that sometimes they work, and being a creative person, knowing that I wasn't going to be really happy with my life fully unless I had that space to try things. And so with Cittavino, all of that happening during the pandemic, I ended up being able to go to Calabria to work a harvest during the pandemic. Ended up staying there for 4 months when travel was pretty difficult at that time, and I had nothing else going on. So, and I spent enough time in this, poorer, less exposed area of Calabria working with really small time farmer winemakers. So for people that, and this is true for a lot of Italian wine that we drink, but their proprietors are also farming the grapes, seeing just how much work went into that. And that they first and foremost would always talk about the grapes in the land before the wine. The wine's just kind of this final product.
Yeah.
And gaining a lot of inspiration from that because of the not just the delicious wine that they were making, but the choice for somebody to leave a city life with a certain stipend or salary to come back because their land is calling them, to kind of rehabilitate it, just was such a struck a note with me. So somebody following their passion and to live a lifestyle that was best suited to them, going kind of against the grain and what generations before have taught us, even in my time, to you pick a career, you need to make money so you can support a family, to kind of it seems like on paper a backwards move, but it wasn't really. Like, it's just we've lost so much touch with land and farming, and for me to spend that time there, I just felt inspired by that again. Also that these older, they're not that much older than us, but generation, inspiring the next generation to stay and not leave. Especially in a place where, in Italy in general, but let's say the South even more so, where the kind of mid-generation isn't there because there's no opportunity for them. So it's also seeing these people create opportunity. And I wanted to really champion that. Yeah. And I also, working in restaurants in New York, all of these things in my life kind of coming together and culminating, I think, in that experience in Calabria and during the pandemic. But, Southern Italian wines weren't as represented on Italian wine lists. And if they were, they certainly weren't organized or talked about in the same way the Northern Italian wines are. And that had me thinking, and it definitely isn't because there isn't quality wine being produced. There's still a reputation for Southern Italy as the backwards part of Italy, but they've been kind of pigeonholed in that. It's, like what came first. It's just all part of a cycle. And that seeing how wine could bring prestige and wealth to a community. And again, the wines being awesome, and I wanted that and my background is, my dad's side is Sicilian, so all just these things felt right. Like that felt like the right focus for me. Yeah. And so that felt like the right focus, and I wanted to be in the wine industry, and didn't have money. So all my own money going into this. Had no money for a storefront. And I didn't want to, I'm not good at pitching myself or asking for money. So the whole idea of looking for investors was very uncomfortable to me. So I just needed to also be able to do something that I could work to support, at least at the beginning. And that's like, structurally why Cittavino is online. And we'll see. And I want to have that reach if I'm going to influence and pitch people expose them to Southern Italian wines. And if my mission is to move the needle for the market, then I can't just be like a small location in one area.
Yeah, like, I mean, you're able to, I mean, I think the way the world is moving, I mean, obviously, like, post-pandemic, like, everything, like, we were forced to do a lot online. Like, I mean, I think things like obviously Shipped and things like that are big, and, like, DoorDash, like, all of that starts online. Yes, someone has to go to the physical location to pick it up, but, like, I think the way that the world is moving, like, you're able to just reach so many more people. Like, not everybody can get to your Oakland storefront if you had one, but
yeah,
people in Michigan or on the East Coast can log onto the website.
Yep.
Obviously, if you're able to ship there, then they can boom, boom, boom. I want this Tiberio. Boom.
Exactly.
It's at my door in a week.
It offers automation too. Like, you're able to send your wines anywhere within the U.S. A storefront. Wow, it could be. You could feel like it faults you. It's also positive that you're online, right? You can work from anywhere.
Yeah, I think that was definitely an intention. Obviously, everything has its limitations and negatives and positives,
Checks
but
and balances,
yeah. I don't know. And then maybe there's something you just approach the model a little differently with it being virtual and online, and kind of what we were talking about too at the beginning with during the pandemic, and it's happened so fast, like creating online relationships through Instagram, but there is like intention for it to be something greater than that.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I'm approaching with the virtual part with Cittavino too, like making connections that I just wouldn't normally have made.
Yeah.
Going in with the blueprint of, wine shop, open a shop, a location, and sling bottles 9 to 5.
Yeah. Quick segue. You said something during the conversation about Southern Italian wines don't essentially get the love that they deserve. Like, it's not about necessarily quality. It's always like the little sister type deal. Obviously, you've been in Michigan as well. Michigan, I think the industry here is kind of like the same way. Like, people thought it was just always sweet fruit wines, or they can't do reds, they can't do this, they can't do that. Still working our way through the industry. I mean, we're lucky to be in a place where I think, obviously, you got to see where I worked. I'm sure Summer has poured you some stuff as well from some other producers potentially.
Yeah.
But what has been your feeling on, I guess, the industry here? Like, have you been, and if you say it sucks, that's cool. but have you been surprised with Michigan wine, or what's?
You know what? I would never say anything sucks because I think also part of what I'm learning for myself and personally, and then also wine industry, why would I ever say anything crappy about anything? Like, part of this is cultivating community, and it's, and also it's beyond just the product, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was very impressed with Modalis. I mean, I've had my friends ask me if
You were impressed with what?
Modalis.
His home team.
Home team.
It's the home team.
And because I've had my friends here ask me, if you taste Michigan wine that's not sweet, please tell us, because they're struggling trying to find what they like here. So told them about my experience visiting you up there, and It's beautiful. I also am super interested in the conversation about hybrids. And I've been, again, God, I hate to admit how Instagram is helpful, but because it can totally destroy lives. But being present on social media and privy to the dialogues happening around hybrids and I had never tasted one before.
Yeah.
So the first time tasting it was with you guys.
Cool.
And that super eye-opening, and I'm pumped. And that, right, like that's forever going to be something that I'm going to remember.
Yeah, you touched on like land too, and just how important like that's where everything starts. And I think that's like the model Modalis is kind of moving towards, like the vineyard that you got to see. Like it wasn't always what it was. Like, you know, the farming practices were, you know, let's use all this commercial pesticide shit and let's just get the job done. But the team there, like they're really focusing on changing that, like putting everything back into the land. And like obviously you do that and your vineyard's gonna, you know, last, you know, and grow. So there's definitely some producers here that are really trying to focus on that too. Just getting back to that. And I mean, I've been lucky enough to do harvest in Napa. I've been around harvest here in Michigan, and like, yes, there's consumers that only see this part, but just like all of the work, like you think winter is like a dead time and things are dormant, but there's still a lot that goes on to make sure that we're getting ready for the harvest. Like obviously Mother Nature, climate plays like a huge impact, but there's still like a lot of groundwork. And like with small teams, I'm sure some of these producers are really like not the largest. So it's all hands on deck when it comes to making sure that you do get this final product in the glass that you like. So
awesome.
Yeah.
I want to spitfire or do a kind of like a, hey, this night, what wine would you pair with this from your shop? Would that be fair? Like say this.
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm going out to dinner, or I'm going to a dinner party, right? Which wine am I bringing to the dinner party?
Cool. Oh, this is so fun. Okay. Do you know where you're eating at the dinner party?
I don't know. I'm walking in.
You're just like, okay.
It's random. For some reason, I just got invited to this place. I barely know anyone.
Cool. Well, out of the wines we're drinking, I would say the Tiberio is a great choice because it's super versatile. It's like kind of playing between that dark rosé, light red.
Okay.
So it can pair with a lot of things. I think you'll also impress some people with this wine because people look at it, and if you're considering it a rosé, they kind of freak out with the color, think it's going to be sweet, and then you're like, you know, no, it's dry. And there's nothing to not like about this wine. And I mean, anything maybe in Italy is kind of obscure, but like you can introduce people to something they've just never heard of before.
I like it. We're going with that one. Date night.
Yeah.
What am I going with?
Date night. Oh my God. Well, do you know your date? Do you know what they like to drink?
So we are, no, not my date, right? But I am making a fish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
What am I going for?
I think, how are you cooking the fish?
Let's say we're going.
Got questions. Got real questions.
I'm going for salmon medium well.
Okay. Oh. See, I'm glad I asked because that throws. I might say even the Tiberio could be a choice.
We're back at it.
Okay. Both would be great. And I think you'd have a fantastic pairing with either one. The Grillo has a little bit of silkiness to it. Like it's got some body, and salmon's a fatty fish, and you want nice acid to go with the fat, but having something with some body is totally welcomed with something like salmon. The reason why I also said the Tiberio, I don't know if people mess with Pinot Noir salmon pairings.
Yeah.
It's actually a great pairing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even Beaujolais. And this is kind of falling in, again, if you were to treat it even like a light red, it could work with salmon. Cool. So
there's like,
I think you'd have a great time with either one.
I love it.
So there's like this, like obviously the stipulation of like red meat, red wine, chicken, fish, white wine. So your suggestion, like if you are like there is something to play around with your chicken meals and your salmon dishes or whatever.
Yeah.
You can play around with a red or like a lighter bodied red if you want.
Totally. I think the key word too is play around. Like people have such a, and again, it's because the wine industry has presented itself this way about, gatekeeping, and people that have all this knowledge are really the only ones that can talk about wine, but encourage people to experiment and try new things and I have so many people come up and they're like, this is a stupid question, I know. And I'm like, it's not a stupid question. Like, why? No, it's never a stupid question. And trying to open up and chill things out a bit with wine so people do feel comfortable
Yeah.
experimenting and playing, and that they're going to, not concerned they're going to make the wrong choice. I actually like hanging out with my friends who aren't necessarily in the industry because they give me great tasting notes.
It's fair.
Yeah. If we can, make it fun. And, sometimes if I've already tasted the wine or I know the grape, I just go in with my preconceived expectations.
Yeah.
And they flip it around for me
Yeah.
sometimes. And that's great for me too.
I think that's the cool part too. Like I think I mentioned, like I brought wines for Thanksgiving for the family, and like obviously like I'm in the industry, but they're more so sweet wine drinkers. But I tried to like approach it with, all right, we're gonna do some dry, we're gonna try it. If you spit it out, I don't care, but we're gonna do some fruit forward things. We're gonna work our way. We'll get to something that I know you really want, but let's start here and then move our way there. But like this, it is fun to taste with like family or friends that aren't in the industry, because they do bring a new perspective, or maybe even a tasting note or an aroma that you don't get because you're so used to the notes that are supposed to be there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah.
I love it. Now tell us more about your business. Where can we find you guys?
So online, it's www.cittavino.co. Cittavino is a play on words a bit. My sister-in-law actually came up with it for me, so shout out to her. When I was, trying to, anyway, she did a great job. But it's a play on the Italian word cittadino, which means citizen, and then vino, so it's like wine citizen. Because part of my thing too is, again, wanting to talk about the broader conversations surrounding wine, obviously through the lens of Southern Italian wines, but the agriculture, getting people to try new things, events, and really fostering community around what I'm doing. So, and that community is such a broad term, but wine is beyond wine, and I want people to see it beyond that bottle. And so I'm online. Totally, I ship everywhere, even if I'm not supposed to, but I ship everywhere.
Sample product.
Samples, not for resale, samples around the country. And so that's like, if you're interested in Southern Italian wines, I'm still building the collection, but I have a ton of cool Sicilian wines right now. And again, to areas that might not have access to these things, I think it's a great tool and resource. And then I also write articles and I draw maps for these regions, because they don't necessarily get that representation or love. And for me, the map is super important. Visual learner. I want to know, I like be able to visualize kind of what part of the world I'm in when I'm sipping on the wine. So there's a ton of information on the site to hang out with too. And we'll see, it's kind of constantly growing and changing. Like the travel stuff has entered in a way I didn't really anticipate. I have a membership program, and I offer help traveling to my members, meaning like help them with little itineraries, definitely winery hookups, because again, fostering like human connection and community. If a member wants to go visit a winery or meet the winemaker for the wine that they drink, like that is ultimate. I think that's so rad. And creating that connection again beyond the bottle. So I think that's going to develop more. Not totally sure how, but incorporating the travel a bit. Sicily has totally blown up tourism wise, and maybe too much. I don't know. I'd have to check in with some of the locals to be like, do you want people to come? But I would love to see some of that action happening with some of the other Southern Italian regions. So I think the wine, I think it's gonna head that way.
I love it.
Not sure to what capacity, but.
Speaking of wine, we did bring a second bottle here.
Yes.
We can just let people know what this second bottle is and what you think of it. I did pour myself a glass. I guess I would just give some brief, what's the grape, by the way?
Yeah. The grape is Grillo.
Grillo, that's the grape. Okay.
Grillo. I'm gonna pour
Yeah,
myself some too.
for
Is that cool? You want some?
Yes, please. Super excited, right?
Super exciting.
I'll take a top off.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
grape is Grillo. I want to know your notes on this because
Yeah.
I could just again come in with my whatever's about it. But
Well, you did mention silky earlier, so it does have this
that in your
kind
head.
of oily tone on the nose and even on the palate. Again, a little bit more weighted. Almost reminds me of a Chardonnay a little bit. Like I said, it has a little bit of body. Obviously, I think the perfect amount of chill, not too cold. Obviously, it's great for the weather today. I think both of these wines are great summer wines. I feel like this one, the Tiberio, was definitely perfect. I'm gonna open this. This is a porch wine. It has some texture. It has some structure there, but that's just I think a fun let's bring this. Let's have a party. Obviously good with food though too, but I think this one would be more so okay. Maybe this let's see what we can play around and pair this one with. But yeah, it's been fun. Like I said, I do get some of that oily texture, more citrus tones. Even hints of floral, but I like it. Like I said, it's the chill has been very nice.
cool. I can get down with all of that.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like this is perfect for a Mediterranean meal. Yeah, if I'm going with salad, I need something nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is perfect. The oily texture, not something that I'm typically used to, but I understand what you guys are saying there for sure. Yeah, I like this.
Cool. Yeah. This is a grape variety. It's indigenous to Sicily, but it's a cross between two Sicilian more ancient varieties, Catarato and Zebibo. Zebibo is actually a Muscat Alexandria. It's a Moscato, but in Sicily they call it Zebibo, and that comes from the Arabic influence on the island. Also something that I'm so fascinated with, and I'm going to be exploring more with Cittavino in terms of food, language, culture, and wine, but the intersectionality of cultures, especially in the South. And so Sicily still carries on, or there's still influence there from the Islamic and Arabic culture, language, food, and Zabibo grape variety. So Zabibo, it comes from the Arabic word zabib, which means raisin, because they would actually make raisins out of that grape variety.
Okay.
And now, of course,
Yeah.
we're making wine, but it comes from that kind of tradition. And the Moscato grape is super aromatic, so I think that's
Yeah.
where you're catching that floral tone. The Catarato is a little more neutral, where it's giving the acid, the lemony stuff. And then different, depending on what producer you try, the grape can have a few different expressions. This one I like because to me it feels a little bit less manipulated in the sense it picks up a little oilier quality, a little bit more aromatic when it's not hardcore temp controlled or native in selected yeast kind of thing. So you might open up a Grillo some other time and it'll taste different than this.
Yeah.
But I like this one because it's pushing, I don't know, all those elements about the grape variety come through.
Yeah.
Like
No, that's
the
cool.
fact that there's Moscato in there, the oily texture. So they're in Sicily. They're a little bit more inland, even though Sicily's an island and full of coast. There are some more inland growing regions, so it actually gets some decent elevation, and that's super helpful with somewhere so low in latitude. There, closer to the equator, because it gets hot for
Yeah.
sure.
And Feudo Montoni is the producer.
Feudo Montoni, yeah.
Cool.
That's
Yeah.
the producer. They also make a great Nero d'Avola. Again, working with classic Sicilian varieties, but if you want a solid, not super expensive, but then also not again crappy bulk wine Nero d'Avola, they are great.
Got it. I got one last question. it can be what I mean. It is what's in your rotation, but what have you been bumping this summer? Like, what's your music choice on the? I mean, like, what's like, what do you listen to?
Great question.
What is Emilia bumping in the AirPods or in the car? Like,
It's in the car. I've been driving and like moving around so much, and like I listen to music all the time. I listen to all kinds of music. I always like have a lot of moods, a lot going on. Like sometimes one type of music is going to sustain you for that 5-hour ride to LA versus
100%.
another. So I'm all over the map. So I make a ton of playlists for myself, but so I range from, and even can happen, within a day. I range from some kind of older Italian 60s jams, but like pop music stuff. I speak Italian, but I'm constantly trying to keep myself fresh with it. So sometimes like bumping the Italian tunes helps. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then I'll even range to like Andre Nicotina. I'm all Bay Area rap. I have like my Bay rap list. Color of the Benz is one of my favorite hype up songs.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We might have to demonstrate some Bay Area dances for us.
No.
LA. Like putting those two together, it makes sense, right?
Oh my God, like the thizzle dance. I can't. I don't know how to do that.
We got a whole backyard out here, so we can like get some content back there if you need to.
Episode name.
I didn't know I had-
Step Up Emilia takes on the Bay.
I didn't know I had to prepare that for this. Maybe
awesome.
like after that entire bottle, you could. Maybe not.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the pod. Appreciate it.
Thank you
Yes,
guys.
you were
This was
amazing.
so fun.
Yes.
Thank
Like
you.
I said, we
thank
try to
you.
keep things like accessible, chill. We just drink wine and we
This is what it's
learn about it.
though.
We have
Yeah.
fun. We just shoot the shit and drink good wine with our friends. So
Shooting shit.
Of course. That's it.
yeah, this is 145, man. 145.
Episode 145.
We out. Bum, bum, bum.